Powerhouse is weird as heck. Before I get into the reasons why this map is so weird, I have to give you guys a quick history lesson in order for them to make sense. Officially released alongside the Gunmetal update in August 2015, Powerhouse is a one-of-a-kind symmetrical 3-point control point map that takes place in a hydroelectric plant. While this map functions like every other CP, Powerhouse's main gimmick is the 3 control points instead of 5. This gimmick was advertised as creating fast-paced rounds due to its smaller number of objectives and more condensed map. While that might have been the case in 2007, it's certainly not how it turned out in 2015. Powerhouse is a very special case, because despite its release 8 years into the game, it's actually a map that was originally designed in 2007. With this nugget of information known, suddenly there's a lot of oddities that start rearing their confusingly designed head out of Powerhouse's history book. The whole reason Powerhouse was even released was because the creator came back, found the map, and decided to finish it up for Gunmetal. At that point, it had been 3 years since the last Valve-made, non-MVM, non-beta, non-Halloweenified map had been released. The prospect of being able to push out a Valve-made map that was already partially done probably seemed like a pretty sweet idea, since it would satiate the fans while not having to put effort into making a map from scratch. But it is the 2007 timestamp that's the core issue of this map. It's no little known fact that the way TF2 plays today, and therefore in 2015, is leagues different from the 2007 version, both due to evolved mechanics, weapons, and the general skill improvements throughout the player base. There is a lot that can be said about the differences, but the main thing that you need to know is that the design philosophy for maps changed drastically over the years in order to complement the evolving playstyle. It's this reason why older maps can be exceedingly frustrating to play on, because they weren't made with all the mobility and weaponry in mind. Powerhouse is absolutely designed with the 2007 philosophies in mind and not 2015. All of the flaws that are present in the older maps are here. Choke points out the scout's ass, tight corridors and claustrophobic rooms, hard to break sentry nests, and massive open areas that make snipers feel like it's Christmas morning. It's because of these map features that Powerhouse, as well as a lot of older maps, become extremely stalematey when you're playing in the uncoordinated setting of casual. In Powerhouse's case, it's also the only CP map without a round timer, which can lead to exceedingly long matches. I mean, hours long. There is also a case to be made for the return to older game formats like what Powerhouse and subsequently Mercenary Park did, but that's enough of a discussion for its own video. Instead, let's focus on just Powerhouse. So, before TF2 became this artistic mess, the game used to abide by a pretty strict set of guidelines for both its overall art style and how each team's were presented visually within the world. Since I'm sure everyone is familiar with the basics by this point in time, I'll simply summarize it into a single run-on sentence. Red-owned buildings are areas built with rustic materials such as wood and brown bricks, and all have a warm color scheme, while blue buildings are made with industrial materials like steel and concrete, with cooler colors splattered everywhere. It's these colors and use of materials that have made TF2 a masterclass in design. Aligning distinct materials with each team results in buildings being easily identifiable at a quick glance, even if they aren't bright red or blue. Here's the weird thing. Powerhouse doesn't really utilize team-aligned materials, at least not in the playable parts of the map. The exteriors of the buildings that would theoretically be seen by normal people almost always follow each team's materials pretty strictly, while the further into the bases you go, the more uniform the materials and objects become between teams. This, in-universe, makes a ton of sense, as many maps act as fronts for Red and Blue's true intentions on each map, so all the fronts all need to abide by each company's style. However, it also makes sense from a design standpoint. When a player is outside, having each team's buildings very distinct from each other, along with helpful waypoint signs, is a great help for new players identifying which building is in the enemy base. Once inside, they know which building they're in and don't need all of the overarching identities. So the deeper they go, the less blatant the building is. Once you get into the secret base areas, most things simply palette switch with each other, because that's not a publicly viewable area and the player already knows which base they're in. By that point, in the building, there's nothing to hide. Who needs to decorate their dang missile silo anyhow? With Powerhouse, the exterior area is basically identical. It's almost like they really stuck to the whole symmetrical map take. Because these buildings are exactly the same in layout and material, both buildings are made of generic concrete walls, despite the fact that there's a large billboard on both denoting the ownerships of each team. Why I find this to be so weird is because of the widely known unused area of the map. Yeah. Look at this section. Doesn't it follow a lot more closely with the design rules I just discussed? This area is not accessible on the official version of the map, and you can only view it through each base's windows on their last point. It's almost like the art pass was slapped together in order to get this map into at least a finished-looking state. Weirdly enough, Hydro actually breaks this rule as well. Basically, every building in that map just looks like a normal concrete power plant building, with only the color schemes being swapped out for identification. Maybe there's just something with hydroelectric plant maps that cause the design team to break their own rules, like the argument that the public aren't supposed to ever see them, or maybe it's because these two maps could be considered the black sheeps of the launch version. But here's the thing, we don't quite know what the development timeline looked like. We don't know how much of an art pass this map received before being canned. If the map was already determined to tie into Hydro, then that would at least help in explaining its weird artistic choices. If this map had launched with Hydro, then stylistically, Hydro may not have been the odd one out of the launch maps, as both Powerhouse and Hydro would have had unique game modes and visual choices. Maybe if Powerhouse had launched in its original time, it actually would have been played as a fast-paced game mode due to how different TF2 was back at launch. Or maybe 3CP would have been a disaster and would have been left behind instead of Hydro's territorial control. Parallel universes. Or not. We got it. Or not. What the hell is happening?
What the hell was that?
I honestly don't know. Nobody knows what that was. I should not have challenged that. I'm going to be auto-balanced. I've been auto-balanced, I'm so sorry. Okay, at least you're with me.
And we were both top of our team.
The auto-balance system sucks ass. God, Hydro! I love you. We got it. I feel like this is the one I know the least, just because we never get it. I will be moved to red in 5 seconds! Holy shit! Oh, come on! Really?
This fucking map.
Oh my god! Oh, I lost because of this! Oh my god! Thanks to 404 Velox, Sean O. Mahoney, and Julian Arnott for being Patreon donators. Special thanks to Damp Volcano and GTY200 for being my Patreon investors. You guys are awesome and really help keep the channel going.